What up, sports fans? Welcome back to a brand new episode of EBC Sports International. I'm your host, EJ Gonzalez, coming at you from Alexandria, Virginia. Thanks for joining us this week. And of course, I can't do this alone, so let me introduce to you this week's panel. First, our neighbor in the north, Adian the Canadian. What's up, bro? It's been a long time.
It's been a while. I'm happy to be back. First of all, I got to say congrats to you, EJ.
Thanks,
father here. Welcome
back.
Man.
Yeah, man. I hope I have enough energy for you guys tonight, man. The nights have not been so kind to me. But let's go ahead and introduce.
It gets better.
Thanks. I'll keep that in mind for those tough nights, bro. All right. And next from New York, let's welcome back PJ. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, EJ? Aside from congratulations to you, congratulations to the Miami Heat for that comeback victory against the
okay. All right. We'll give you some chance to brag about your Miami Heat, number one in the Eastern Conference right now, man. Congrats. But lastly, from Las Vegas, joining us again is Brian. What's up, Brian?
Hey, what's up, EJ? What's up, guys? Glad to be here. It's been a while for me, too. I call us the comeback crew.
Yeah, the comeback crew.
The beginning of the year. And congrats to you too, EJ, by the way.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And it's good to see all you guys, man. And like always, we just want to remind our viewers at home that we are by no means experts, rather a group of good friends and sports enthusiasts who's giving their own opinions. Now, before we jump into our main topics, we do have some updates from the sports world this week. First, we'll share with you all part 2 of the interview with Yankees prospect Anthony Volpe with our New Jersey bureau.
For any professional athlete, their defining moment in their careers is the moment they were drafted on a team.
With the 30th selection of the 2019 MLB draft, the New York Yankees select Anthony.
That defining moment is something their families will always cherish. For Olivia Volpe, hearing her brother Anthony get drafted by the New York Yankees brought tears to her eyes.
I cried. Yeah, I think everybody cried. But I think when the moment actually came, it was years and years and years of hard work. And then it all led up to this one moment where it made all those sacrifices worth it. And I have witnessed those sacrifices myself, through my own eyes, and seen how much it takes to get to that level.
And for Anthony's parents, Michael and Isabel, they couldn't be more proud of their son, who is currently living his dream with the iconic team's farm system.
Obviously, you just want him, to succeed, live up his dreams, and just, support him throughout his whole journey. We're just going to be there to, make sure he has all the support that he needs and, be his biggest fans.
It's a long journey. He has a long way to go. I know he's told me he wants to not just make it to the major leagues, but win multiple championships in the major leagues.
Yeah.
If that's his dream, then I want to support him. It would be great. But no matter what he does, I'm going to be proud of him.
It's rare in the sports world that any local athlete gets drafted to their hometown team. LeBron James, that kid from Akron, Ohio, is one of the few athletes lucky to be drafted by his hometown team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Back in 2016, the King brought the city its first sports title in 50 years. Anthony, who was born in Manhattan and raised in nearby Somerset County, New Jersey, hopes to achieve success with the Yankees and win multiple World Series titles in his career.
You grow up playing and working so hard to win World Series, and not just one World Series, but be the player that you grew up watching, that was part of those dynasty teams that won a lot of World Series. So I just want to work really hard to become the best player I can be. Definitely more short-term goal-oriented than long-term, winning World Series one day, because hopefully that'll be a byproduct of all the hard work I'm putting in now.
For most athletes, fortune and fame are the top priority. But for Anthony Volpe, it's family first over fortune and fame. Carlo Valdez, EBC Sports International, New Jersey.
Thanks for that story, Carlo. Next, PJ has a scoop on the latest news from the NFL regarding their COVID protocols. PJ, what's up?
That's right. Thanks, EJ. Yes, the NFL season has ended, but we have promising news for football fans coming out of the NFL and the NFL Players Association. Based on an article that's found on the NFL's website, the league has released a memo indicating that all aspects of their COVID-19 protocols have come to an end, effective immediately. So you might be wondering, what exactly does this entail and what does this mean for me as an NFL fan? Well, essentially, face masks, regardless of your vaccination status, connects on tracking devices, surveillance testing, and stadium capacity limits, unless told otherwise by the state or local laws, will no longer be necessary. According to the memo released by the NFL and the NFLPA, this decision was made based, as they said in quotes, based on current encouraging trends regarding the prevalence and severity of COVID-19, the evolving guidance from the CDC, changes to state law, and the counsel of our respective efforts. So with that said, they will still, of course, continue to prioritize the health and safety of everyone involved. So with this news comes relief not just for NFL teams and NFL players, but also NFL fans. For now, gone are the days that players are in and out of the lineup due to COVID-19 health and safety protocols. For example, in 2020, 2021, there were a total of 18 games that were postponed or rescheduled due to the pandemic. This past season, the 2021-2022 season, in a season that just not only saw COVID-19, but also the Delta and the Omicron variant, there were a total of 3 NFL games that were postponed or rescheduled. Yet the NFL did not miss any games and was still able to have the Super Bowl in both those seasons. So kudos to the NFL. So although the NFL season has ended, hopefully this brings some good news to the upcoming season. Back to you, EJ.
Awesome news. Thanks, PJ. And lastly, a short update from Adian regarding Tiger Woods' latest accomplishment. Adian.
Yes, thanks, EJ. Earlier this week, it was announced that Tiger Woods won the PGA Tour's inaugural Player Impact Program bonus. This program measures a player's popularity based on 5 different metrics: their popularity in Google searches, their Q rating, the Nielsen rating, the MVP index rating, and their meltwater mentions. In other words, Tiger Woods was the most popular player of the last year. Woods has won 15 majors throughout his career, but he hasn't even played in a PGA Tour event for more than a year while he's been recovering from injuries he suffered in a car accident. The bonus pays Woods $8 million and the second place Phil Mickelson about $6 million. The rest of the top 10 athletes get upwards of $3 million. Rounding out the top 10 are number 3, Rory McIlroy, number 4, Jordan Spieth, number 5, Bryson DeChambeau, number 6, Justin Thomas, number 7, Dustin Johnson, number 8, Brooks Koepka, number 9, John Ram, and lastly, Bubba Watson. Last December, Phil Mickelson was so sure he had won the PIP that he announced it on Twitter way too early. He tweeted, "I'd like to thank all the crazies and real supporters too for ... helping me win the PIP." And of course he didn't win. It was Tiger Woods who won, and it was Tiger Woods who pulled up that tweet and simply replied, "Whoops." Tiger Woods stays winning. Hopefully we see him back on the green soon. Thanks, EJ. Back to you.
Thanks, Adian. Yeah, man. Tiger, always winning. Well, that's all the news that we have for today. When we return, we have a full episode of NBA topics for you today. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Mr. Bawal, may ibis ka, oh. Ba't doon? It's a prank! Okay lang manakot. Pero kung mananakot ka para sa boto, bawal yan!
Ayon sa Omnibus Election Code, threats, intimidation, terrorism, use of fraudulent device or other forms of coercion is an election offense.
Sino kausap mo? Makaalis na nga. Sa iba na lang ako mananakot. Mr. Pwede! Mr. Pwede! May malaking ipis sa likod mo! Nox! Babawi ka pa, ha? Di mo ako maiisahan! Ako si Mr. Bawal na nagpapaalala sa inyo na ang pananakot para sa boto. Ipis! Uy! Bawal yan!
Welcome to Mobile Legends!
Mga ngalakal na may 30 taon ng putol ng isang paa, bibigyang pag-asa ng responde. Batang ama, napasan-pasan ang problema ng kanya pong mag-ina, sinaklunuhan. Ama at mga anak na inabandona ng kanilang ina, sinagip ng responde. At tampok sa ating e-responder, magtataho na inaalok ng pahulugan ng kanyang paninda, kilalanin. Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi. Ito ang Responde, mata ng mamamayan.
All right, welcome back, sports fans. Now, we're going to start things off with probably the most exciting player to watch in the NBA right now, jaw-dropping Morant. Man, Ja Morant made 2 huge highlights that took over social media by storm this past week. And that was against the San Antonio Spurs. He not only put up 52 points in a win, but he did so in, like I said, jaw-dropping fashion. He had 2 highlight plays, which included a huge poster dunk over Jakob Poeltl, and had an insane full-court buzzer beater to end the half, which has become the NBA's most viewed Instagram video ever. So, Brian, I'm going to start with you, man. I want to ask you, which was more impressive? Because the list is long. The 52 points, the dunk over Jakob Poeltl, or that buzzer beater?
Man, EJ, let me tell you, out of all of those 3 amazing things that Ja Morant did in just that game, the dunk, in my opinion, has to be the most impressive. Like, yes, he did score 52 points. Yes, he did score that buzzer beater, but to successfully nail that dunk and then posterize poor old Jakob Poeltl in the whole process, that has to be one of the greatest, honestly, in-game dunks of all time. And if you know Ja Morant, he's the king of almost dunks. Like, he'll try to attempt it, and it'll look amazing, like seconds before, but then he misses it. But this time, he does it. He goes all the way to the rim, above the rim, and he puts it in. He destroys the rim. And right now, Ja Morant is must-watch basketball.
Definitely. And I love the poster, man. The poster was crazy. We actually have a picture of it sliding through the pictures as well. But to me, the most impressive part was the buzzer beater, man. The buzzer beater was insane, man. Like 0.4 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. It was a full court pass by Steven Adams. First of all, that pass by Steven Adams, big kudos to that guy. But yeah, man, to make history as the most viewed Instagram post with that buzzer beater. Imagine in an era where LeBron James, Stephen Curry runs king, it's John Morant who has the most viewed video on Instagram. That's pretty crazy. So let's Allen Iverson actually, he posted a picture on his Instagram of his MVP trophy with a John Morant jersey wrapped around it and tweeted, "Sooner or later, John Morant." Adian, I'm gonna ask you, man, do you believe that Morant should be the front runner to win this year's MVP? Does he have a case?
Whoa, EJ, let's slow down a bit. Maybe not this year's. I agree with Allen Iverson's take. Sooner or later, he's definitely going to be one of the faces of the NBA. I like what Kendrick Perkins said about him recently. It's between him, Trae Young, and Luka Doncic as the three guards who are going to be potentially the faces of the NBA. And then not too far behind is Jason Tatum. But yeah, this year, he just doesn't have the full body of work. He's missed a lot of games. I mean, we forget that part of it too. He had his ankle injury earlier this season, and he missed a big chunk of games. So I feel like if they're going to factor that into the MVP vote, he's probably not going to win this year. I will be surprised if he's not in the top 4 or 5, though. He's playing like it, and he deserves it. The Memphis Grizzlies are the biggest surprise of the season thus far.
Yeah,
I think we can all agree on that. And if they're not successful this season, I think a lot of people would be surprised if they didn't make it past the first round. So that's my expectation of them. I do think this is a dangerous team with Ja Morant, whether he's MVP or not.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I think he makes a case. Again, like you said, we have no expectations of Memphis. We look at the standings now, 3rd in the West. That's pretty impressive. And of course, that's being led by Ja Morant. But Desmond Bane, he's also, I think, a candidate for most improved. That guy has stepped it up a notch this year, and I think has played to the success of the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, Ja Morant is likened to Allen Iverson, right? And I think it's more of his looks. It's the mustache. It's the the long hair and the dreads, right? So the braids rather. Ja Morant is likened to Allen Iverson, but Iverson didn't have that insane athleticism that Morant has, right? When we think of athletic guards, we think about Russell Westbrook or even pre-injury Derrick Rose, maybe even someone else. PJ, in your opinion, where does Ja Morant rank in the most athletic point guards to ever play the game?
This might be recency bias, but when you're talking most athletic point guards, he definitely has to be at the top of the list, right? Like you named all those players: Allen Iverson, D Rose, Russ Westbrook. Ja Morant is kind of like the 3 of those guys in one.
Right.
The speed, the agility, the explosiveness to the rim. I might even throw one in there that I've heard from another big name podcaster that's out there that might get some confusing looks, but the way he controls his body mid-air, the way he gets to the rim and flies through the air is very Jordan-esque.
I thought you were gonna drop the Jordan word. Yeah, man.
Jordan-esque there. So he's definitely at the top of the list for point guards. I mean, think about the dunk contest this past year, right? If he's in it, that thing is like 10 times better. 10 times better. And then one of the more overlooked aspects of his game, think about defensively. I think a couple months ago, he had another viral video where it was in blocking.
The block, yes.
The two-handed block.
The two-hand block, yeah. Insane.
Yes, 100%. So he's definitely at the top of the list for me.
Top of the list, wow. So he already surpassed Russell Westbrook, Derrick Rose, and to my surprise, he didn't even mention Dwayne Wade, who I think is definitely one of the most athletic point guards to ever play. But yeah, man, Ja Morant is definitely up there. And I think, even if he didn't have that highlight dunk this past week, that two-handed block definitely would have solidified it for me. I've never seen somebody get that high up with 2 hands, not one. It's a lot harder to reach up with 2 hands, and that guy did it. But, it's been a while since I purchased the jersey. And with the way that the guy excites us, I might have to consider copying that Ja Morant jersey, man. But next, let's go ahead and discuss the teams of LA. I know we always talk about the Lakers' struggle on the show, but it's really alarming as the Lakers have now lost all 4 games this season against their LA rivals, the Clippers. Reggie Jackson led the way against LeBron James and company with 36 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds, as the Clippers defeated the Lakers 132-111. Now, Adian, Ken's not here to defend his Lakers, so let it all out, bro. Can we officially call the Clippers LA's team? Let me hear you.
Oh man, I think so. I'm not ready
Sorry, Ken.
because the Clippers just haven't won a championship yet. They're nowhere near the level of franchise success. But this season and last season, let's call it the Clippers Nation right now. You can't convince me when you go to a Clippers game versus the Lakers and 80% of the fans are Lakers fans. They're all wearing Lakers gear. That this is a Clippers city. If you want to call it Clipper City, let's do that. Even though they have their number, and all that, they've won 4 in a row against them. 7 of the last, they won 7 straight against them in the past 2 seasons. If you're considering that, the last time the Lakers beat them actually was in the bubble when they won their championship. But ever since then, they've been relying too heavily on Mr. Glass, Anthony Davis. So the Lakers' struggles are directly correlated to Anthony Davis being out, and I don't think that's the Clippers doing. That's just bad luck.
Yeah, but it's just so surprising that the Clippers have been able to win this many games against LA, and this is without Paul George. This is without Kawhi Leonard. These are their, not their main guys, and they're beating out a LeBron-led team. Okay, Ty Lue, yeah. He knows LeBron. He coached them, won them the championship in Cleveland. So I guess that he knows his kryptonite, I guess. All right, so PJ, last night in the post-game interview, Russell Westbrook said he's still trying to figure out his role because it keeps changing every night. Now, I mean, we're way past the half-point mark of the season. So what do you believe is the best plan for the Lakers and Russell Westbrook to make it into the playoffs, PJ?
So first and foremost, let me just start off by saying this. If I'm a Lakers fan, I'm kind of hitting the panic button right now. When the guy that I traded all those key pieces that were on a championship team, like that's who I traded all those pieces for, doesn't know his role on the team, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm very concerned. I've talked on this show before about the reasons why Westbrook might be going through what he's going through. And I think a lot of it is mental. So I'm not going to knock him on the mental aspect, but to say that you don't know your role on your team, you have so many vets on that team. Talk to Melo. Melo had to do it. He had to learn how to come off the bench, swallow his pride a little bit, find a way to make the system work so that it's not just about you, but it's about team. Now, going forward for the Lakers, with all that said, they still have LeBron James. They're going to make it to the play-in at least. They might be able to make some noise in the play-in and in maybe the early rounds of the playoffs. But in order for that to happen, obviously you have to have a healthy LeBron James, a healthy Anthony Davis, lock in defensively, which I think eventually they'll get to. But right now, I just feel like they're lackluster on defense. As we all know, the old cliche, defense wins championships, and when your most tenacious defender is Austin Reeves, that's kind of worrisome right there. So I think with all those things, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, for sure, man. And Brian, the Clippers, if you look at the standings right now, currently 8th in the West, and the Lakers are 9th. Now, with the play-in tournament, who do you believe has the better shot in actually making the playoffs, Brian? Is it the Lakers or the Clippers?
I mean, is Ken around? He's not here, right? Okay.
No, he's not here.
I mean, everyone is talking about the Lakers. Everyone talks about how much of a disaster they are. They're must-watch basketball in the worst possible way. They've lost 4 straight games recently to the Clippers, to Reggie Jackson. I mean, this Lakers team is unfolding, to be honest. And they're exposing all the mistakes that they've made in the offseason. They traded for Westbrook, who is historically a bad shooter. I mean, he is one of the greatest players of all time. He is in the top 75, but he's just a bad fit next to LeBron. I mean, we've already talked about this before. They're the oldest team in the league. AD has been hurt for a month. Who knows when he's coming back? No one outside of LeBron has the drive to even want to win games. So this is not really a hot take, but I think the Clippers are going to make it to the playoffs instead of the Lakers. Right now, the Clippers, they're on a 5-game winning streak. There's not that many games left in the regular season, and Paul George is nearing a return. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. And when you look at the team as a whole, the Clippers are they're just hungry. When you look at them as just individual players, obviously the Lakers have the better team, but the Clippers just have more drive right now. So it honestly comes down to whoever wants to win it the most, and it's going to the Clippers.
No, I 100% agree. And honestly, if Ken were on the show, I know he'd be mad with how the Lakers are performing. I'm pretty sure he would just end up picking the Clippers right now, as much as he'd hate to what's it called, to admit it. But Ken, on the next episode, go ahead and give your takes, man. If your rebuttal in this case. But great takes, guys. Time for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll switch it to the Eastern Conference and talk about the latest on the Sixers and the Nets. EBC Sports International will be right back.
Karapatan natin lahat na iboto ang karapat-dapat! Tama! Lahat ng Pilipino pwedeng bumoto!
Kung rehistrado ka.
Ha?
Ang lahat ng Pilipinong rehistrado lamang ang maaaring bumoto. 1 taon ang ibinibigay ng Commission on Elections para magparehistro ang mga Pilipinong boboto sa darating na eleksyon. Kailangan gawin ito para maiwasan ang tinatawag na flying voters. Teka, lahat ba kayo nagparehistro na?
Opo! Rehistrado kami lahat!
Bakit tahimik ka? Hindi ka nakapagrehistro, no?
Nakakalimutan ko.
Hindi ka pwedeng bumoto. Mabuti pa, bumili ka na lang ng balot.
Pagka kami pa bumili ng balot, pwede na kami bumoto.
Hindi, pero mabubusog ka. Para sa karagdagang kaalaman, makipag-ugnayan lang sa pinakamalapit na barangay o bisitahin ang COMELEC website.
To aspiring fashion designers, starting a clothing brand is a dream come true. They have the ideas, the talent, and most importantly, the passion for fashion. But what does it really take to start a fashion brand? Anong kailangan gawin lalo na ngayon at bumabangon pa lamang ang fashion retail industry sa gitna ng pandemya? We will tackle these questions with one of the world-class and homegrown women's fashion brands in the Philippines. Join us as the President and CEO of Camiseta Group of Companies, Ms. Chris Roque, discusses how to start a fashion brand in this episode of Open for Business.
I feel that all of us in general must live our best life, meaning we should put our best. Let's push ourselves to the limit or how far we want to go so that we live a life of no regrets.
Ang mga pinakamaiinit na issue, pangyayaring nakakaapekto sa lipunan, mga kaganapan sa politika, tatalakayin, lilinawin dito sa Saganang Mamamayan. Kasama si Jenso Barjaga,
iba't ibang klase ng gamot na kung tawagin natin ay OTC.
Nelson Lubao,
ay hindi mo na kailangan magreseta.
At mga espesyal na co-host, Senator Francis Tolentino.
Ano po yung ginagawa ngayon, yung kabalita hakbangin ng COMELEC?
Tourism Advocate Bobby Joseph.
We can get around 12 to 15% of GDP.
At ang tinaguriang pambansang basurero, Benny Antiporta.
Tinulungan po sila ng ating Pangulo, binigyan ng lupa, yung mga IT.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 10 hanggang alas 11 ng umaga, Saganang Mamamayan.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Now let's talk KD and the Nets. KD made his return to the floor on Thursday night as the Brooklyn Nets faced the Miami Heat. KD has been out of the lineup since January 15, nursing a sprained MCL. And since then, the Nets have gone 5-18 in his absence. KD finished the game with 31 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 35 minutes of play, yet still fell short to the Miami Heat, who were without Jimmy Butler, without Kyle Lowry, and without PJ Tucker in the lineup. So PJ, you're the Miami Heat fan now at just a 500 team and standing at 32-32 in the season. Should we still be viewing the Nets as a threat to win the East? But first, go ahead. I'll give you the chance to brag about your Miami Heat.
Yeah. Comeback. No, I mean, so for me, I still consider them a threat. You have arguably the best scorer in the league in Kevin Durant. You have arguably the shiftiest point guard in Kyrie Irving. And then on top of that, you still don't know what you have with Ben Simmons. When the trade first happened, I thought it was a perfect fit for both teams. I think with Ben Simmons playing for the Nets, he's now probably like your fourth, maybe fifth option offensively, which is perfectly fine because he can be that number one and number two guy. Right. So when you have Ben Simmons there who can guard 1 through 5, he has the ability to facilitate, which gives Kyrie the freedom to roam, the court. And then if Ben Simmons penetrates, he could kick out to either guy. I still consider them a big threat. With that said, they also have probably one of the easier remaining schedules for a lot of the teams for the second half of the season since the All-Star break. I think they're probably they have the 4th or 5th easiest schedule or something like that.
Wow.
So in terms of that, I just feel like if they're able, again, I say this on almost every episode, but it's so cliche. The best ability is availability. If they stay healthy, we heard the other day that, Joe Harris is out, he's done for the season. So that's going to give other guys other opportunities. I think the Nets did a fantastic job with the draft this year. Some of the young guys are looking really promising. And then obviously you have the veteran leadership of a Patty Mills or a Goran Dragic, who I know a lot of Toronto fans aren't too very fond of, but he does bring that veteran savviness to the team and can facilitate run pick and roll with those big guys that they do have. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how they incorporate Ben Simmons into that formula and how he's able to work in the pick and roll, not just as the ball handler, but also as the roller. I think that's where a majority of his points are going to go. So again, with that said, I still feel like they're a threat. Do I think they're going to win it? Definitely not, because like I mentioned in last week's episode, I don't think they're deep enough. I don't think they have the depth.
The Nets aren't deep enough? I think they're the deepest team in the league, man. When you think about yes, well, you mentioned Joe Harris is no longer going to be available this season. That's a huge blow. But I mean, the addition of Goran Dragic, you have Patty Mills as a great shooter, and the addition of Seth Curry is another great shooter on that team. Then you look at their bigs. They got Andre Drummond from the trade, which is, I think, a huge steal that they were able to come out of that trade with Andre Drummond, who now pretty much is their main center, with LaMarcus Aldridge backing him up, and Nicholas Claxton. He's been great coming off for them. I think they're super deep. The only thing is we haven't seen them all together on the floor at the same time. I think that's the biggest thing. And like you said, availability is the best ability. But we're gonna have to wait till we get to see them all on the court, right? But
I just have one rebuttal to that. Just one rebuttal.
Okay. Yeah.
Bam Adebayo cooked Andre.
I know. He did. Yeah, he played like garbage. Andre Drummond played like garbage. But Adian, so KD said after the game, right, that he felt great and will only continue to feel better with the more he plays. But he doesn't consider himself the savior of the team. If KD is not the savior of the team, then what do the Nets need to get the boat straightened out, man?
If it's not KD, they have no answer because they're not winning a championship without KD. I mean, he's regarded as the savior of the Nets. I mean, who else is? It's not Ben Simmons. It's not Steve Nash when he gets back from COVID protocols. It's not Kyrie Irving if he's allowed to play home games. He is the only proven player, the only MVP on this roster, I mean, aside from Steve Nash, that is available. And if he's not playing at an MVP level, there's no way this team is winning. Like we saw it last year. They had to hurt James Harden, and Kevin Durant was balling out in the playoffs. But that wasn't even enough to get them past the second round. So they're going to need KD to be superhuman right now. He, by all means, is the savior of this roster. And if I'm a Nets fan and I'm hearing this, like KD's trying to like lower his expectations, maybe trying to make it seem like he's not going to be that great, and you know, and if they fall short, then that's the reason he never really thought he was healthy enough or whatever. But like, no, it's all on KD. He chose to go to the Nets and leave the Warriors. He chose to play with Kyrie Irving and continue to rock with him and not trade him rather than James Harden. So a lot of these choices come back to KD, because at the end of the day, they could have had a much better roster if things were handled differently. It's just KD's pushing it to be this way. And again, like last season, a lot of red flags. I agree with PJ. This team's not winning.
Oof. Yeah, man, I'm a huge KD fan, man. And for him to say he's not the savior, Brooklyn Nets fans need to just, go ahead and go to the corner and cry, because I don't think they have a chance anymore.
He's tempering our expectations. That's all it really is.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to be held accountable, but when they win, he wants to be held accountable. But we'll see if KD can stay healthy. But Brian, man, the Nets, like I mentioned, I think they have a scary deep team, and that is if everybody makes it to the court at the same time. Now, I just want to know your opinion. Do you think that we'll ever see the Nets with no one missing in action due to any reason?
Man, EJ, that's like the worst question to ask about this team. I mean, I think it'll happen. COVID
2 seasons from now.
I mean, who knows? I mean, that team might just be an entirely different roster 2 years from now.
Right.
Like I said, though, I think there's a good chance that it's going to happen with all 3 of their stars being on the floor at the same time. COVID requirements might change New York, meaning that there's a good chance that Kyrie can start to play home games again. I don't know what's happening to Ben Simmons. Recently, there was a report that he suffered a setback. He had some nagging issues with his back or something like that. But I mean, he's been gone for a while. I mean, he hasn't played for an entire year, and it's understandable to a point where, like, okay, you need to get back into NBA condition. But there are some players right now who are on 10-day contracts. They haven't played in forever, and they're on the court right away. So, I mean, that's kind of a telltale sign for what could possibly come for Ben Simmons. Maybe the Ben Simmons saga hasn't even ended yet. That's like an entirely whole discussion that we can have. But I know we don't have enough time for that.
Right.
By some miracle, if all 3 of them are on the court at the same time, this team is going to be really scary when they're all on the floor. I mean, 100%. For all the hate he gets, Simmons is still a talented player. He's still a very good player. And he can lead KD and Kyrie to those easy open shots while also playing all NBA defense at the same time. So let's just hope that it won't be a repeat of the previous years with KD, Harden, and Kyrie, where they only played 16 games total together. So let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, man. These hypotheticals of actually seeing them on the court together, we're just going to have to wait and see. But on the other side of the trade, between the Nets and the Sixers, it was James Harden who found himself a new home in Philadelphia. And we have seen what he can do with Joel Embiid. Since then, James Harden is averaging 27.3 points per game on 59% shooting, 9 rebounds, and 12.3 assists, and have not lost since he's been on the court. So, Brian, after over a week in, is it safe to say that the Sixers are now the bigger winners of the trade deadline?
I mean, for all the Nets fans out there, they're going to hate me for this, but I mean, yeah, it's a small sample size, but this tells us why Harden wanted to join Philly in the first place. This is the team that he wanted to join, not the Nets. Harden is at his best when he's the main ball handler, and we can see that. We saw that in Houston, and we're seeing that now in Philly. We saw that he couldn't do it in Brooklyn when they had too many cooks in the kitchen with Kyrie and KD also on the same team. So that's why we're seeing Harden now flourishing with Embiid on the Sixers. You know how every great NBA team has a system, but there are certain players, LeBron, Jokic, Curry, who are the system. And Harden is also one of those players. And you can see like how happy he is. He's all smiling, laughing. And he's the happiest that he's been that we've seen recently, playing with the best center in the NBA, arguably. and the front runner of the MVP. So let's see what they can do. This is a really great sign for what's to come, and they might come down as one of the greatest 1-2 punches ever.
Man, yeah, that's scary to hear. I think it was Kendrick Perkins who said that it's giving him Kobe and Shaq vibes with Harden and Embiid, and with the way Embiid has been playing this season and miraculously have been staying on the court for as long as he has. They look super scary, especially with James Harden playing like Houston Rockets. James Harden before he decided to, wear a fat suit and not suit up for the team, right? So, I mean, they look scary. And 2 games back from PJ, your Miami Heat, man. 2 games back from the #1 spot. So, I know you're the Miami fan. You don't want to give kudos to the Sixers, but what seed do you see the Sixers finishing at the end of the regular season?
So realistically, I'm going to say that the Sixers are going to finish either at the 2 or the 3, only because I honestly don't even have Miami finishing at the 1 seed, if I'm being perfectly honest. I feel like there's going to be other teams that kind of move up and they jostle for that first seed. But I see them finishing around 2-3. Obviously, right now it's the honeymoon phase. Everything's going really well.
Right.
But there's gonna be bumps. There's gonna be bumps in the roads. It's not gonna be all sunshine and rainbows for them. I said the same thing about the Nets last year, where the team looks so good on paper, but they haven't hit adversity yet. So I think this is the same situation with the Sixers, where they look fantastic right now, but they haven't hit adversity yet. Obviously, barring any injury or like COVID stuff, things like that.
Right.
On top of that, when you think about just the East alone, the East alone is a gauntlet. You have to go through the Bucks, who are kind of starting to turn things around a little bit, and then once they're all fully healthy, and you're gonna have that battle between Embiid and Giannis, I think that's gonna be fun to watch. The kind of like, I don't know. For me personally, obviously I'm biased, but Bam Adebayo is just constantly getting better and better every single year. So that's another team that, Joel Embiid is going to have to deal with their big man. Aside from them, you have the Bulls, who one of the not necessarily surprised, but nobody thought the Bulls were going to be as good as they are. Obviously, they have injuries and stuff right now. I think the Bulls are going to be another tough out. Even teams like, the 3-headed big monster of the Cleveland Cavaliers, playing their 3 centers at the same time. I think it's going to be tough out no matter where you are in the standings. The East, I think the top end of the East is just so much more difficult than it was in previous years. So I have them 2-3.
2-3 at the end of the regular season. All right. So Adian, how about you, man? We mentioned regular season, but obviously the Sixers are going to make the playoffs. How far do you think they're going to go in the playoffs?
Look, I've been rooting for the Sixers' success for like the last, it feels like 4 or 5 years. Ever since 2019, when they had that roster of Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid. I just thought within the last 5 years, they would be one team that would win a championship, at least one of them, right? And if I'm doing like just a complete vibe check right now, in the East, I feel like they got the best vibes going. Aside from Miami, although they haven't, like Miami's got injuries, we all know that. They got the best vibes going right now in terms of chemistry, in terms of like everything looking great. Yeah. They got rid of the monkey off their back, which is Ben Simmons, and he's been notoriously known as a playoff choker. So this is huge for them because now they have a player who was previously regarded as like a top 3, top 5 player in the league, and they're pairing him with the potential MVP of the league. I feel like this is the best possible situation they could have ever asked for after dealing Ben Simmons. And so I'm kind of rooting for them to make it all the way. I do think they could make the finals and they could win the championship. Because I don't see there being that much resistance in the Eastern Conference to the superstardom of Joel Embiid and James Harden. Because when it comes down to the playoffs and you're just playing, 5 players in the last few minutes, I feel like they have the best offensive talent and the best defensive talent going both ways. I mean, you got to shut up. There's some difficult teams out there. The Celtics are hot right now. The Chicago Bulls, I feel like, are still a little too inexperienced. Same with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then it gets real when you're talking about the Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets, and one team, Milwaukee Bucks, of course.
Yeah.
But I feel like Joel Embiid, if he continues to play like this, especially in the playoffs, then he should take that leap and get them to the finals.
No, I 100% agree with you, man. You know, for me at the trade deadline, I thought that the Nets won the trade, but with the way Embiid and Harden are looking right now, and the way they were able to make it click like that, look at Russell Westbrook halfway through the season, still don't know their role. First 2 games in for James Harden, and they're finding success, man. So they're definitely making me rethink who won that trade. And right now, the Sixers look very scary. So we're going to take one last break, and when we come back, we're going to react to Bleacher Report's most clutch list and, of course, answer our question of the week. We'll see you after the short break.
Bida sa pelikula, sa commercials, sa game shows, sa puso mo.
Welcome sa ating bagong show! Kung saan hindi ako, pero kayo ang bida.
Mga kwentong may puso at tumatago sa puso.
Gusto ko lang po talagang ma-share sa kanila na they are not alone.
Gumawa ka ng kabutihan kahit mawala na yung kita mo lahat. Bida!
Tinuruan namin yung mga magulang kung paano gumawa ng mga localized solar.
Pati ang mga home daddies, kasama sa kwentuhan. Kaya maging bidarkada na kasama ng ating feel-good host, Aga Mulak.
Let's be the light of kindness in this world. Ito po ang Bida Kayo kay Aga.
Sandali! Oh, may nagkagusto kasi sa akin ng gorilla. Tapos nakawala siya. Kuya, ano nangyari? May nagpakawala!
I want to tie the knot na. Babe. Naintindihan mo ba, babe?
Hindi ko talaga narinig eh. Baka pwedeng pakiulat itong bata.
Itong game natin, kailangan mabutas ang plastic sa pamamagitan ng inyong mga mukha.
Hi guys! Ako nga po pala si Franz Rojas at abangan niyo po ako bilang guest performer sa Letters and Music ngayong darating na linggo, March 6, 1 to 2 p.m. Siyempre, dito lamang yan sa Net 25. See you po!
Sino sa mga bagong bayani ang mananalo sa Tara Game? Agad-agad at may chance mag-uwi ng 100,000 piso? Panoorin ang exciting na tapatan ng mga OFW Tara Gamers. Kayo na mo ipapasa ang tanong na yan.
Christian.
Bakit kay Christian?
Sige, bibigyan na kita ng chance para makausad ka na sa next round. Next time gagad.
Bakit kinuwi mo pinasa yan?
Hindi niya yan alam. Kasi hindi ko na alam eh.
Nangula lang talaga ako. Nangula ka talaga. Ngayong linggo, alas 7 ng gabi sa Net 25.
All right, everyone, last portion of the show. Let's do this. Thanks for sticking with us. Bleacher Report's Grant Hughes wrote an article this week where he ranked the current NBA's most clutch players at each position. And I think there's a lot we can discuss. Their criteria in ranking these said players are the 5 within 5 rule, where the player made the most impact in the final 5 minutes in a game where the point differential is at 5 or less. So here's the list. Point guard was Chris Paul. Shooting guard was Devin Booker. Small forward, Zach LaVine. Power forward, DeMar DeRozan. And center, Joel Embiid rounds off the most clutch players at each position. Now, I'm going to start with Brian, man. Point guard, shooting guard. Let's focus on that. Chris Paul and Devin Booker. That's who made the list. Do you agree or disagree?
Honestly, I agree. I agree.
Ooh.
When you look at these two players, you think clutch because they have led their team to multiple wins in close games throughout the entire season. When Chris Paul and Devin Booker are both healthy, they are quite possibly the best team in the West. And that has shown ever since Chris Paul has been out, and they have been starting to lose a couple of games here and there. When you look at Chris Paul in the clutch, he's shooting 57.1% from the field in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. And Devin Booker is shooting 67.7% in the clutch in those few minutes left. So these two players being clutch is an understatement because of the way that they can put the ball in the basket so late in the game. It just translates to wins, and obviously it translates to wins in the playoffs too. They're just a couple of months removed from being in the NBA Finals, and honestly, with their team intact right now, they can probably make another trip again.
I agree. I agree, and I'm glad that you brought up the point about the finals, because that's my criteria of doing it when it actually matters. Now, if Damian Lillard were healthy, that dude obviously makes the list at point guard. It's just the Suns are lucky to have two players on this list to be the most clutch. That's what's helping them be the number one team in the NBA. Now, Adian, I'm gonna go with you for small forward, power forward. Zach LaVine at small forward, power forward. DeMar DeRozan. Let me hear your take on this. Agree or disagree on most clutch?
Well, this season, it's kind of hard to argue with DeMar DeRozan being one of the most clutch players. You saw his two buzzer beaters. You've seen how he's taken over games in the fourth quarter. His team has been laced with injuries all throughout. Patrick Williams was out. Alex Caruso's been out. Lonzo Ball's been out. And so the entire offense has been centered around DeMar DeRozan only, really. And Zach LaVine was out for periods of time, and he still was able to put up big numbers. He had that stretch of games, I believe it was seven in a row where he had 35 points or more. That was insane. And so it's hard to argue with him being one of the more clutch players this season. But if you take it in the context of like his career, I don't necessarily consider him a clutch player when it comes to the playoffs. And I would know. I'm a Toronto Raptor fan. There are a lot of games where he disappeared in the playoffs against the LeBron James-led Cleveland Cavaliers. And so, like, obviously I hold that bias against him a bit. And I'm surprised to see him on this list because I don't usually regard him as a clutch player, but obviously this season you got to give him his flowers. Now, in terms of the small forward position, Zach LaVine, I'm surprised, like, Kevin Durant's name's not there.
Right.
Doncic's name's not there. Like, they're probably on the lists, maybe, like, ranked 2 or 3. Maybe they missed some games or whatever. Maybe that's why they didn't make this ranking. But, I'm a little surprised Zach LaVine is on it. He's not really known for game winners this season, but he's shooting the ball really well. He shot the ball really well last season too, and so maybe that's it. I can't explain it. The Bulls have been successful this season, and it's in large part to those two guys.
Yeah, my complaint with the list is not the players on the list, but what position they're at. Zach LaVine at a small forward. I mean, DeMar DeRozan at a power forward. I don't even think in fantasy hoops I can play him as a power forward. There's no way DeMar DeRozan is a power forward. And to me, I bring up the finals again. The name that should be mentioned is Giannis. The guy is clutch. The guy in the finals said he can't make free throws, makes his free throws to close out the finals, scores 50. The guy is the definition of clutch and the reason why the Milwaukee Bucks now have a championship. This guy needs to be on the list. Put Giannis up there. I don't care. 5 minutes left in the game. Give Giannis the ball. You have a chance to win the game. All right. At any point, DeMar DeRozan, not a power forward. I would definitely switch him out to the small forward position and put Giannis in the power forward position. But all right, lastly, the center position, Joel Embiid. PJ, agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, the way that he's been playing, I agree. He's clutch. The numbers he's putting up, obviously he's a candidate for MVP. But my first thought was, to kind of make things a little bit interesting, what about Jokic? Nikola Jokic. He's very similar numbers. He's putting up crazy numbers right now. And I think, I don't know, I kind of want to give Jokic a little bit more of an edge. Only because, like, for example, like rapid fire. If we did a rapid fire session, you look at Joel Embiid, what's his supporting cast around him? You could probably name Tobias Harris, now I'm blinking, but I kind of put pressure on myself.
Now James Harden, right? Now James Harden. Yeah.
Like that. But then if you go to the Nuggets and you're like, okay, name their starting five.
Right.
It's like
Will the Thrill Barton.
Yeah, like who's on the Nuggets? So that's the only reason why I probably would have thought Jokic. I agree with you completely though in regards to like the list and like the positions. When I saw that DeMar DeRozan was a power forward on there, he definitely is not a power forward. So like, my thought process was like for me, Zach LaVine, like he's a very talented player, but he's missed so much time, and I feel like that should be taken into account when creating.
Put Kyle Kuzma on the list. Kyle has been clutch for the Wizards. The Wizards have a horrible record right now, but in the clutch, actually, the Wizards have the best record in clutch situations in games decided by 5, and a lot of that is because of Kyle Kuzma. I would put Kyle Kuzma in the small forward position, but yeah, that's the only thing I would change.
For me, like I was gonna move DeMar down to the small forward position. And am I being biased? Oh, 100%. What about maybe Bam Adebayo?
Bam Adebayo, there you go. There you go.
Like the last few games here. So,
true. Hey, Miami, number 1.
Yeah. I mean, the listing was a little bit weird, but
yeah.
I mean, Joel Embiid definitely deserves it, but maybe throw some consideration towards Jokic.
Yeah, or Bam. I actually like your pick of Bam better than Jokic. Just who would you give the ball to in the last 5 minutes? Bam, Embiid. I don't think you go with you can go wrong with either pick. But all I'm going to say is that they need to rethink that list and rethink about these positions, man. This is, I mean, we play positionless basketball now, but I mean, they got to fix DeMar DeRozan on power forward. Never. I can't even put him in the power forward position on fantasy. But let's finish up with the question of the week. Yesterday, John Rahm, the current world #1 golfer, had a routine 10-inch putt to finish out a hole, and he tapped it. He stroked it pretty well too, and he only hit it an inch and left it short. With that in mind, this made me think, okay, what's the most embarrassing moment we've ever witnessed by a professional athlete that should never have happened? Adian, let's start with you, man.
It's got to be one of the most memeable moments in NBA history. Nick Young's three-pointer that rimmed out after he started celebrating. Oh, man. That was
yeah, no, agreed. We all know that one. Brian, man, what's your pick for most embarrassing moment by a professional athlete?
I'll take Adian's memeable moment to J.R. Smith's memeable moment. 2018 NBA Finals, Game 1, final seconds of the game.
Right.
J.R. Smith dribbles the ball outside.
Yeah, LeBron.
Outside.
LeBron, what are you doing?
We forget the fact that he got that rebound. That was a big rebound in that game.
It was a clutch moment, but mental lapse.
He totally negated that clutch rebound.
That's a good pick too. That's a good pick too, Brian. All right, PJ, how about you, man? Most embarrassing moment for a professional.
Real quick, a runner-up. I don't know if you guys saw the video last night, but Tristan Thompson.
Yes, bro. A minute long.
Well, I don't know what that form was. That was
a minute. Yeah, that was gonna be my pick too. That was my pick. 1 minute long. Tristan Thompson, 4 feet away from the hoop, shooting jumpers where his hands crossed like this. It's hilarious, man. Never should happen with professional.
But my actual answer, like the first thing that came to mind when I thought of this question was Brandon Knight when he played for the Bucks.
Oh,
they were in overtime, tied against the Nets. He stole the ball.
Oh, I saw that
break wide open.
Missed the layup. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, can never go wrong with a missed layup to win a game, right? That's definitely embarrassing. But everyone, that's all the time we have for this week's episode. On behalf of everyone on our panel, thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to tune in again next week. Make sure to visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com and watch us on net25.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Eagle News to join the conversation. For EBC Sports International, I'm EJ Gonzalez. Take care, everyone.
Joe.